Welcome to Trending Unpacked, the show that dives into what the world's been searching for and why it matters. Today, we're taking a deep dive into an icon whose name is not just synonymous with professional wrestling, but who, well, fundamentally reshaped the landscape of pop culture for decades. We're talking about none other than Hulk Hogan.
Hulk Hogan. Yeah.
Forget what you think you know about wrestling because his story is a true whirlwind. We're talking global superstardom, patriotic symbolism, surprising falls from grace, and honestly, a truly bizarre digital afterlife.
It's quite the journey, isn't it? I mean, for anyone who grew up in the 1980s or even just kind of followed entertainment, Hulk Hogan wasn't just a wrestler. He was like the phenomenon.
Right.
His real name, Terry Gene Bollea, might not ring as many bells,
Yeah, not as catchy.
Definitely not. But that transformation from, well, that relatively humble beginning into Hulk Hogan, that marks a pivotal moment. It was through the World Wrestling Federation, which we now know as WWE, that he really just burst onto the global stage. And what's really fascinating, I think, is how his rise didn't just coincide with the boom era of professional wrestling in the 1980s. He essentially created it, defined it even.
He was the boom, basically.
He wasn't simply a star of that era. He was its face, its heartbeat.
And what a face it was. I mean, we're talking about an entire industry that, before Hogan, was largely regional, right? Operating out of, like, smoky gymnasiums.
Yeah, a very different scene.
But then, boom. Enter Vince McMahon with his vision, enter Hogan, and suddenly professional wrestling is catapulted. Arenas, national TV, eventually international superstardom.
It really was a perfect storm.
A perfectly timed confluence of ambition and, well, sheer charisma. Hogan's persona wasn't just thrown together either, was it? It felt meticulously crafted, like almost surgically engineered to hit the cultural mood of the time.
Oh, absolutely.
This larger-than-life figure, this infectious energy. Somehow he became someone kids and adults could just wholeheartedly believe in.
Absolutely. And a core part of that meticulous crafting, as you said, was his signature look. You can almost picture it now, can't you?
Totally. The yellow and red.
Yeah, the vibrant yellow and red, the bandana, those iconic sunglasses perched just so, and of course, the ripped shirt.
The shirt rip. Classic.
It wasn't just a costume, it was like a ritual. The moment he'd tear that shirt in the middle, flexing, I mean, it was more than just showmanship. It was a clear statement of power, a visual cue that signaled, okay, here we go, something big's about to happen.
Yeah.
These elements became extensions of his character, instantly recognizable worldwide, even to people who, never watched a single wrestling match.
You're so right. The visual was incredibly potent, but so was the auditory experience, wasn't it? Beyond the bright colors and the muscles, his voice, his catchphrases, they got just as ingrained in pop culture.
Oh, definitely.
For anyone growing up in the 80s, it was practically a rite of passage to hear, and probably mimic, his booming declaration. What you gonna do, brother?
Huh.
Yes. It wasn't just a question. It felt like a challenge, almost a playful threat, a call to action, maybe.
Yeah. It echoed from wrestling rings to playgrounds, permeated commercials, even found its way into just casual conversation. It was unavoidable.
It totally transcended the sport.
Yeah.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, right? These seemingly simple elements, the torn shirts, the poses, the roaring catchphrases, they weren't accidental at all.
No way.
They were integral components in building what became his quintessential all-American image.
Ah, the real American.
Exactly. He personified this very specific ideal, American strength, unwavering patriotism, and almost cartoonish resilience sometimes. It was a complete, cohesive package that allowed him to just effortlessly transition beyond the wrestling ring and become a true household name.
And transcend the ring, he certainly did. I mean, here's where it gets really interesting, I think. Because Hogan wasn't content with just dominating wrestling.
No.
He understood, maybe instinctively, how to leverage that all-American brand into something much broader. An entertainment empire, really.
Yeah. His reach across different entertainment mediums was pretty unprecedented for a pro wrestler back then. This wasn't just about, athletic skill. It was about cultivating this global celebrity status that was multifaceted.
What's truly fascinating is how early he, or maybe the team around him, grasped the power of cross-platform branding. Long before the internet made this kind of thing commonplace.
Right, before influencer was even a word.
Exactly, Hogan was pioneering it. His ventures outside wrestling weren't just random appearances. They felt like strategic moves, each designed to solidify and expand his presence in the wider pop culture landscape. It showed remarkable foresight, really, into the mechanics of modern stardom.
That's a crucial point. I mean, think about his breakout movie appearance. Rocky III in 1982.
Underlips.
Yes, Thunderlips. It was a relatively small role, but undeniably memorable. And the exposure, just massive.
Huge.
She was squaring off against Sylvester Stallone, the ultimate underdog, and one of the biggest movie franchises in the world at the time.
Yeah.
That single appearance immediately elevated him, put him on a different, more mainstream level. It introduced him to millions who might never have tuned into a wrestling show otherwise.
And that opened doors, didn't it? Following Rocky III, he started taking lead roles. Films like Suburban Commando in 91.
Oh, I remember that one.
And Mr. Nanny in 93. Now, okay, maybe they weren't critical darlings.
Understatement.
Fair enough. But their importance for his brand can't be overstated. They put him squarely in that family entertainment zone, showcased, surprisingly, some decent comedic timing.
Yeah, he wasn't bad.
And it significantly expanded his appeal beyond his existing wrestling fan base. He became like a fixture in blockbuster video stores, reaching families on their movie nights.
It wasn't just film either. He even ventured into music, releasing albums like Hulk Rules in 1995.
Hulk Rules, yes. I mean, look, he wasn't exactly giving Freddie Mercury a run for his money.
Probably not.
But these efforts, again, they cemented his comprehensive brand strategy. It wasn't about being the next great singer. It was about making sure the Hogan brand was everywhere. Every possible avenue of consumer interaction, music videos, merch tie-ins.
He was inescapable.
Pretty much. And let's not forget his reality TV show much later on, Hogan Knows Best, premiered in 2005.
Right. That was well after his peak wrestling days.
Exactly. Yet it brought him and his family back into millions of homes, offered this curated, often exaggerated glimpse into his daily life.
Definitely curated.
Oh, for sure. But it was a masterclass in staying relevant, Showed his adaptability, his understanding of how to maintain a media presence, even as the whole celebrity landscape shifted towards reality TV.
What's really striking is that this whole approach, this multi-platform thing, culminated in what was genuinely a massive merch empire and cross-platform brand. Especially in the 80s and 90s.
Oh, yeah.
This wasn't just a wrestler selling a few T-shirts. This was an incredibly early, incredibly successful example of a celebrity leveraging their persona into a full-blown business.
Totally. Lunchboxes.
Action figures, cereals, cartoons, video games, bandanas, you name it. He probably had his face on it.
It really highlights his acute understanding, or maybe the team's understanding, and brilliant execution of celebrity as a multifaceted, tangible business. Long before terms like influencer or personal brand were everyday things.
So looking at the big picture here, Hulk Hogan really kind of laid the groundwork, maybe the strategic blueprint, for how modern athletes and entertainers build their personal brands today.
I think you could definitely argue that. He intuitively grasped that his appeal wasn't just about what happened inside the ring. It was equally about the larger-than-life persona, the carefully cultivated image, and the ability to connect with a diverse audience across tons of platforms.
He showed the world how to turn a character into a global enterprise.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, so that brings us perfectly to that persona itself, the real American image.
Yeah.
Because it feels absolutely crucial to understanding not just Hogan's initial, meteoric success, but also, kind of ironically, some of his later problems.
Yeah.
It was incredibly powerful back then. Why do you think it resonated so profoundly with audiences during the 1980s? It felt like he just tapped into something much bigger than himself.
He undeniably did. I mean, the 1980s were a very distinct cultural moment in America, weren't they?
For sure. Reagan era, Cold War.
Exactly. It was the era often called Morning in America, characterized by, a strong economic resurgence, a renewed sense of national pride, a real contrast to the anxieties of the 70s.
Right.
And this was also the peak of the Cold War. So the idea of American strength, American resolve, was constantly being highlighted.
Okay, so how did Hogan fit into that?
Well, the all-American image wasn't just a marketing slogan for him. It became this potent symbol. With the muscles, the red and yellow, the constant calls to train, say your prayers, and eat your vitamins.
The vitamins. Can't forget the vitamins.
Never forget the vitamins.
Yeah.
He became this living, breathing personification of American strength, idealism, and, frankly, a kind of moral uprightness.
So in that context, he wasn't just a wrestler throwing guys around. He was a hero figure.
Absolutely. For millions, he genuinely embodied strength, perseverance, and that very specific 80s brand of, overt patriotism.
Yeah.
He was the ultimate good guy, right? the white meat babyface in wrestling terms, always overcoming seemingly insurmountable odds, often against foreign heels, the villains, or these monstrous, scary figures.
Those storylines fit perfectly with the narrative people wanted to believe about America at the time, didn't they?
Precisely. That America would always triumph over its adversaries, at home and abroad. He transcended mere entertainment to become a kind of cultural superhero.
Oh, wow.
Kids looked up to him as this incorruptible role model. Adults admired his perceived embodiment of wholesome American values. His persona offered this sense of stability, reassurance, in a world that, despite the optimism, still had underlying anxieties.
That simple, clear-cut morality was probably pretty comforting.
Incredibly comforting, I think.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting, because while that image, that heroic persona, was so celebrated and adored, it would eventually become quite complicated, wouldn't it? There's a strong hint here that the clean, almost impossibly heroic persona he built would later clash pretty dramatically with some very public actions and revelations.
Indeed. And what's truly fascinating, maybe tragically so, is that the very strength and purity of his real American image created this incredibly high pedestal.
Yeah, further to fall.
Exactly. The public expectation for the real American was so immense, so unyielding, that any deviation, any flaw, any contradiction would inevitably feel like a huge betrayal.
Right.
This inherent tension really sets the stage for what we now understand as his complicated celebrity legacy. He's still an undisputed icon to many, especially those who remember the glory days.
The Hulkamaniacs?
Hulkamaniacs, yeah. But he is undeniably a problematic figure to others as we look at what happened later. It raises a big question, doesn't it? How long can such an expertly engineered persona really withstand the scrutiny of public life, especially now?
And that leads us straight into a chapter that just shook his career to its core, complicated that legacy profoundly. Let's talk about the major scandal of 2015.
Right. The 2015 scandal was, well, it was seismic. Not just for Hogan, but for the whole wrestling world, maybe the broader celebrity landscape, too.
What actually happened?
It involved the public revelation of deeply offensive, racist comments he had made. These came out as part of a transcript from a leaked private sex tape.
Oh, right, the Gawker lawsuit tape.
Exactly, that whole saga.
Yeah.
The language he used in those comments was, well, undeniably vile. Repeated use of racial slurs. It painted a picture just dramatically at odds with his long-standing, real American persona.
And the fallout was immediate, wasn't it?
Swift, absolute, and brutal. WWE, the very company that built him into a superstar, the institution that put him in its Hall of Fame. They immediately severed all ties.
They didn't just fire him, they kind of erased him for a while.
It was a full-scale purge. Removed from the website, merchandise pulled, historical mentions scrubbed from archives. A complete cancellation. Unprecedented, really, for someone of his stature. It showed how serious the offense was and how urgently the company needed to distance itself.
Wow. What was the public reaction like? Must have been intense.
Oh, predictably. Widespread shock, profound disappointment, and a lot of anger. For millions of fans, Hogan was more than just a wrestler. He was this untouchable, almost mythical icon from their childhoods.
Yeah, he represented something good.
Exactly. Good, wholesome, heroic. To see him fall so dramatically and for this reason, due to such disturbing revelations, it was genuinely unsettling. It forced a lot of people, myself included, to grapple with that uncomfortable task. Reconciling the hero they adored with the ugly comments that came out.
Separating the art from the artist or the persona from the person.
Exactly that question. How do we view that separation? The real American was suddenly revealed to have this very different, much darker side. And for many, that was incredibly difficult to process. It shattered an illusion.
Absolutely. But then, fast forward just a few years and we see a very different development. Despite how bad it was, he was eventually reinstated into WWE's Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
How did that happen? And what was the reaction to his return?
Well, his reinstatement was a slow, pretty carefully managed process. WWE framed it as an act of forgiveness, rehabilitation.
Okay.
It involved Hogan issuing multiple public apologies to the locker room, to the wider public. He did some community outreach stuff, which WWE highlighted as evidence of remorse, efforts to atone.
Right.
It was basically an attempt to acknowledge the wrongdoing while also recognizing his immense, undeniable historical and financial significance to the company. A significance they just couldn't ignore forever, probably.
But the reaction wasn't universally positive, I imagine.
No, not at all. well, met with incredibly mixed reactions. Some fans, and importantly some current wrestlers, felt maybe he'd served his time or that his contributions were just too vast to be permanently erased.
And the other side.
Others, particularly within the Black community and allies, felt the comments were unforgivable. They argued his reinstatements sent a really troubling message that maybe these kinds of transgressions could just be apologized away, undermining genuine efforts towards diversity and inclusion. The debate was fierce, highly polarized.
So, what does this whole cycle, the dramatic cancellation, then the controversial reinstatement, tell us about celebrity, forgiveness, public memory, especially in the digital age? It feels very modern.
It's a critical question, isn't it? And one we're still figuring out as a society. In the digital age, nothing really vanishes.
True. It's all archived somewhere.
Exactly. Those racist comments, the outcry, the firing, the apologies, it's all meticulously archived online, easy to find. So while a corporation like WWE might symbolically reinstate someone into its official story, the public memory, fueled by all this accessible info, is way more complex, nuanced, persistent.
It's just wiped clean.
Not at all. This cycle shows a constant tension, I think, between a societal demand for accountability, the human capacity for forgiveness, and, let's be honest, the undeniable financial and cultural value certain icons still hold. Forgiveness, in this context, isn't automatic. It's fiercely debated, contingent on so many factors, always influenced by the shifting tides of public discourse. It really shows that even a seemingly final cancellation isn't necessarily permanent in a world that thrives on both nostalgia and controversy.
And that brings us to what I think is the truly wild, almost surreal part of his current story. The internet's strange, ironic re-embrace of Hulk Hogan, especially through meme culture, Gen Z irony.
Oh, yeah.
He's currently a subject of parody, nostalgia, just a whole lot of meme creation. Where are we seeing this pop up most?
You see this digital resurgence absolutely everywhere. TikTok, Reddit communities, endless YouTube video feeds.
Yeah.
It's a truly fascinating digital afterlife for someone who mostly rose to fame and arguably peaked way before the internet was a mass thing.
Yeah, pre-internet icon.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And his persona, which was always larger than life, and let's face it, often bordered on self-parody even back then.
True.
It makes him an absolutely perfect canvas for ironic internet humor. He's just ripe for remixing.
So it's not necessarily a genuine, uncritical embrace of his problematic past. More like a detached, playful appreciation of the character he was.
I think that's largely it, like a historical artifact digitally dusted off and repurposed for new jokes.
What kind of content are we talking about?
Oh, it's incredibly varied, often really creative. Countless parody accounts, with slightly misspelled names, deep fakes where his voice or image is manipulated to say absurd things, sophisticated AI voiceovers delivering crazy monologues.
Wow.
And of course, a huge number of Macho Man edits.
Playing on the Mega Powers thing with Randy Savage.
Exactly. Reimagining their dynamic in surreal, hilarious ways. It's just this general meme resurgence where he pops up in bizarre, exaggerated, or anachronistic contexts, often alongside other 80s and 90s wrestling icons.
His whole vibe is just memeable, isn't it?
Totally. The over-the-top pronouncements, the exaggerated movements, his very specific way of talking, it's all perfect fodder for the internet's ironic sensibility. He's basically become pop culture shorthand for exaggerated masculinity and retro kitsch.
It's like the internet found his whole career on old VHS tapes, digitized them, and then just decided to have some deep, ironic fun with it all.
Pretty much sums it up.
But this phenomenon isn't just about Hogan, is it? It feels like part of a broader trend. Why is Gen Z, specifically, ironically re-embracing these retro macho icons?
That's a really important question about generational engagement with media and cultural memory. For Gen Z, there's a significant time gap, right?
Yeah, they weren't really around for his peak or the big scandal.
Exactly. They didn't live through the initial shock of the 2015 scandal the same way older generations did, nor did they directly experience his 80s peak. This temporal cultural distance allows for a powerful detachment from those past controversies.
So they can be playful with it.
Right. It enables this playful, often ironic appreciation. It's less about genuinely endorsing his past actions or even his original persona, and more about finding humor, engaging in cultural commentary, a kind of digital archaeology.
Mining the past for content.
Yeah, mining the past for its most visually and audibly striking elements to be recontextualized. They're engaging with the iconography more than the full, complex history.
So they're not celebrating the man or endorsing his past, necessarily. They're engaging with this symbolism, the campiness of a bygone era.
I think that's a great way to put it.
Like a playful, almost academic dig into pop culture history, where these figures become canvases for new jokes, new meanings, new ways to bond online.
Precisely. And Hogan is far from alone here. He's often associated with this specific niche of internet wrestling culture alongside other legends, Ric Flair with the whoo, Randy Savage with that intense unpredictability, The Rock, obviously, who's now a huge Hollywood star.
Right.
These figures, with their distinct personas, quotable lines, often exaggerated antics, they all feed into this broader trend of digital nostalgia for wrestling legends. It's a powerful way for this generation to engage with media. Transforming figures into widely shared memes becomes a form of cultural commentary and connection, building these really vibrant online communities around shared ironic humor.
It's less about the individual's full story and more about the collective experience of remixing pop culture for today's laughs.
Exactly, turning cultural figures into shared communal inside jokes.
That's fascinating. But despite all this, the scandals, the mamification, the shifts in perception, Hogan's presence hasn't totally faded, has it? He's still got business ventures, makes appearances.
No, not at all. The Hulkamania brand, in various forms, still sells merchandise, online, physical locations.
Who's buying it? Old fans, new ironic fans.
Probably a mix of all of the above. Genuine, diehard fans buying nostalgic stuff, ironic consumers maybe buying into the retro kitsch, and possibly newer, younger audiences discovering him through the memes. There's still a market there.
And he has that store, right, in Florida.
Yeah, his most visible ongoing venture is probably Hogan's Beach Shop in Clearwater. It's more than just a souvenir store. It's kind of a physical shrine to his legacy, a destination for fans, a tangible reminder of his enduring appeal.
And he still does fan conventions and things like that.
Oh yeah, quite active. You'll see him at fan cons across the country, meeting fans, taking photos, signing autographs. That's a direct personal connection with his multi-generational fan base, the original Hulkamaniacs, and maybe the newer, ironically appreciative Gen Z crowd too. He seems to understand the value of that personal touch.
Keeping the brand alive.
He absolutely does. These activities are crucial for keeping him in the public eye, maintaining that connection. And it's not just merchant cons. He's tried other entrepreneurial things too, some more successful than others.
Like what?
Well, there were past restaurant attempts that didn't quite pan out. More recently, he launched a CBD line.
Interesting.
These ventures, whether they hit big or not, they highlight his continued entrepreneurial spirit. His desire to monetize his enduring celebrity shows he's always looking for ways to adapt, stay relevant in business, even if some ideas don't fully land.
So connecting this to the bigger picture, what does it really mean for a public figure to go from mainstream global icon, then have this massive fall from grace, only to find this unique, unprecedented digital afterlife as a cult phenomenon? The spotlight, weirdly, just refuses to fade on him.
It speaks volumes, I think, about the enduring nature of true celebrity. Even when that celebrity becomes profoundly complicated or shifts dramatically in its nature, Hogan's story powerfully shows that even catastrophic spardle, especially now, doesn't necessarily erase someone from the collective consciousness.
It just changes the narrative.
Exactly. It irrevocably transforms their narrative. His persistent celebrity reflects this dynamically changing media landscape where traditional cancellation can be temporary, where cultural figures can be perpetually reinterpreted, rediscovered, recirculated through new platforms like TikTok, YouTube, Reddit. His presence, for better or worse, for irony or sincerity, remains remarkably unfading.
That's a powerful thought transformation, not erasure. Which brings us to the ultimate question. Thinking about Hogan's entire sprawling legacy, for better or worse, how do we even begin to synthesize such a complex, contradictory figure?
It truly is multi-layered, almost paradoxical.
Yeah.
To understand Hogan, you have to weave together all these distinct threads, right?
Mm-hmm.
His pioneering role in wrestling, basically propelling it from regional curiosity to global phenomenon in the 80s.
Yeah.
Then his unmatched pop culture impact, movies, music, TV building, one of the earliest true cross-platform celebrity brands.
Yep.
But then crucially, you have to acknowledge the significant painful fall from grace, those racist comments, the industry-shaking impact that had.
And ignore that?
Absolutely not. And now we add this surprising, often ironic resurgence as a digital meme, a figure of detached appreciation for a new generation. It's a tapestry woven with threads of triumph, controversy, and unexpected cultural rebirth.
So the core idea really is that complicated celebrity legacy. He's an icon to many who grew up with him, undeniably problematic to others who can't forget the transgressions, and now almost a playful remixed meme to Gen Z.
It's like three distinct Hogans coexisting simultaneously in the digital ether.
Yeah.
And what's truly fascinating here is what his story tells us about the very nature of celebrity in the internet age. The internet, like we said, doesn't forget. Every quote, clip, controversy is stored, but it also constantly remixes, recontextualizes, reinterprets. So while a public action might lead to immediate severe backlash, professional consequences, the raw material of that celebrity, the persona, the image, the catchphrases can persist and evolve in unexpected, even absurd ways. It really challenges the idea of what it means to be canceled.
That raises an important, maybe provocative thought for us to consider. And for you, our listener, to mull over. How do we, as a culture, collectively reconcile these wildly different facets of a single public figure? Can an icon's legacy ever truly be erased in this age of constant digital archiving and endless ironic rediscovery? It seems in the digital world, nothing truly disappears. It just gets recontextualized, forever available for new interpretations.
It's a fundamental challenge we're constantly grappling with, and it'll only intensify as more figures from pop culture's past are unearthed and reinterpreted. Hulk Hogan's story is just a prime, vivid example of how history, public memory, cultural perception are constantly in flux, especially when mediated by the relentless, often ironic, churn of the internet.
It forces us to ask, whose version of the story holds sway, and for how long?
Exactly.
Absolutely. What an incredible deep dive into an absolutely unforgettable and, well, undeniably complicated icon. Next time on Trending Unpacked, we dust off the putters and head to the golf course with Adam Sandler's big sequel. Happy Gilmore 2 is officially in the works.